Okay, so next up, we have our first workshop. We're going to be talking about how to automate SDR's daily routine with AI. And automating SDR stuff is probably kind of bread and butter of our VP of growth, of Vlad, who has been leading the SDR team for many, many years. So he's probably the most knowledgeable person on this topic that I know, at least. So welcome, Vlad. Thanks for joining. You're on mute, so make sure to unmute yourself. Hi, Vlad.
Hey, George. Hey,
All right.
everyone.
Yeah. So I think there's not much to talk about. Let's just dive right into it. And we're going to be monitoring chats and asking if some good questions pop up. We're going to be kind of chiming in.
Hey, thanks, George. All right, let's dive into the topic right now. I will share my screen. I will share my entire screen. All right, so okay, let's get started. I have 20 minutes or so. Let's talk about a topic: how to automate SDR's daily routine with AI. We'll talk about like practical aspects on how to implement, how to incorporate AI, ChatGPT into your SDR's daily routine, and how these can help you boost your productivity and help your team and your teams boost their productivity. My name is Vlad. I'm growth leader here at Reply with SDR's background. I have spent more than 7 years here, almost 7 years here at Reply, leading the SDR team. So this is something I'm keen on. And when actually I have been reading about lots of use cases that are that we can implement with AI right now, like a few years ago, and I had no chance to implement them. Now, thanks to AI, it's possible to do that, and it's like incredible. I would say it's incredible situation, I think. So yeah, what we will cover today, we will talk about 3 topics: ChatGPT for SDRs. Yes, again, ChatGPT for SDRs, and how it's going to be an entry point, how we can use this to implement, to get started with AI, to get familiar with AI and generative AI specifically. We'll talk about JSON AI by Reply.io. It's a brand new feature in our product. We will talk about no-code AI prospecting, how we can be personalized at scale, how we can automate lots of things and be more productive. And I will be sharing lots of tools. Again, I will be available in the chat after the conversation, so feel free to ask me any questions or text me or something. I will be more than happy to share those tools, share my experience, and help you with those tools. Okay, so let's get started with ChatGPT for SDRs. I remember back in November 2022, when our CEO Oleg texted me, "Hey, have you seen this brand new thing, ChatGPT?" I said, like, yes, I've been trying it for a while. We will be chatting and we will be saying, we were chatting, and then he said, okay, this is gonna change everything, and I mostly agree with this. So here's how currently our SDRs and our SDR team uses ChatGPT. We will talk about how to write email templates, how to improve those email templates, personalization, A/B testing, how to write email follow-ups, objection handling, and how to summarize text and notes. And I'm more than sure that lots of speakers will be talking about that prompts is probably one of the most important things when it comes to generative AI. When we communicate with chatbots like, for example, ChatGPT or Jasper AI or Write-Sonic, so prompts are super important. Okay, let's get started with templates. This was the first use case I tried last year, and I said, okay, so typically it takes time. I remember, I know that typically it takes like sometimes days, sometimes even a week to craft a really unique cold outreach sequence. It takes time because you need to think about like call to actions, reason for outreach, value propositions. Sometimes it's like time-consuming task, and it requires lots of creative energy to come up with great ideas. So ChatGPT can help with this because they can generate tons of different email templates. So here's a prompt we can use for ChatGPT. For example, I sell reply.io to a piece of sales at tech companies, write a short email, 100 words max based on best practices, and try to schedule a call. So I will use this as a prompt in ChatGPT, for example, and we'll start generating. Oh, they're experiencing high demand, so probably we won't give a try today. Let's see. Okay, so we will start with this simple prompt. I hope this email finds you well. Of course, it's not a good and it's not the best practice, but we will deal with this later. Okay, so we have now a CVP of sales. We know like pain point. Now we have a value proposition. ChatGPT knows something about reply, our value proposition, what we do, our features, and so on. And it knows about like and provided some basic CTA. And okay, this is like a basic template we can rely on. It should be, of course, improved by a person, by your team, maybe your SDR leader, your sales leader, marketing leader, and so on. But then we can ask something better. We can use frameworks other sales influencers mentioned on LinkedIn. For example, I'm following Will Alred on LinkedIn. He's a co-founder of Lavender. He will be a speaker today, so he will be sharing lots of examples as well. But here's his framework. Here's how he recommended this framework, and I decided to give it a try. For example, instead of using just a basic prompt, we can improve it, and we can say, okay, I sell to a piece of sales, write a short email, and try to schedule a meeting. Use the following framework: reason for outreach, I saw, pain point, usually it means, value prop, worth a chat. And now we'll have slightly better, I would say even better, way better cold email template right away. I saw and I wanted to reach out to you. We already have a good reason for outreach. Usually it means we now can hook this reason to actually what we want to sell. Now our value proposition, and now we have a soft call to action. Of course, we can improve it, and that's how we can communicate with ChatGPT, like make it shorter, use soft CTA, remove redundant words, try different intro line, rephrase first sentence, add a reason for outreach. So that's how you can communicate with the chat and improve your copies. Now we can use ChatGPT to personalize cold emails based on some things like hobbies. I know lots of SDRs use hobbies. They're called outreach. So here's how we can use it. For example, slightly modify the template and provide an analogy between a hobby. Let's try, golf, maybe baseball, and so on. Now we'll have a relatively good cold email. For example, parallel between sales and golf. And typically it generates interesting, creative hooks, segues, I would say, for that hobby. So again, now we can iterate, we can remove redundant words, we can make it shorter, etc. But it's a great starting point. We can also use it to A/B test, different things. For example, generate 2 more variants of this template using different CTAs, reason for outreach, or value proposition. We can use it for follow-ups. We can ask, okay, now generate 2 additional email follow-ups, and it will generate some follow-ups, right? Here's how we also use. The next use case is objection handling. Typically, SDR teams face the same objections, like pricing, not right now, not right person, all set, not interested, how it works, how it helps, competitor. So we can, and typically it takes some time to be creative here, right? Because they may ask, what's the difference between you and your competitor? What's the difference here? What's the pricing, etc. So sometimes it takes time to generate a meaningful response, right? So we can ask ChatGPT to help with this. For example, I sell reply, I emailed the prospect. They said they already use one of our competitors. Find a creative way to overcome this objection. Of course, this is like a generic prompt. You can specify it by adding your competitor and adding exact reason they mentioned, for example, whether it's in an integration or pricing or I know something else, and it will help you generate a unique and sometimes creative ways to overcome objections. That's why actually our SDRs rely on this strategy a lot. We can use it to summarize notes, for example. Typically, our account executives, they save long discovery call notes in our CRM. And sometimes when you have like hundreds of prospects, you have no capacity to read all these notes. And you can ask ChatGPT or other AI tools to summarize these notes, or maybe identify some key points in these notes and incorporate them into an email, for example, or your email template. So that's how you can personalize your emails based on previous conversation. For example, this strategy works for ghosting opportunities, for closed lost opportunities, or typically for ghosting opportunities. That's how we use it. So when it comes to tools, in this case, we're talking about generative AI tools. We can rely on Copy AI, Notion AI, Jasper AI, Writesonic. Here's the list of those tools. They have the same interface, pretty much the same interface, so you can communicate with the chatbot. And when it comes to email-specific generative AI assistants, we are talking about email assistants, right? AI email assistants, and in this case, we can talk about Lavender, Compose AI, Typewise, Semantic AI, Reply, Jasper, Grammarly. They're launching a new product, Grammarly Go. So all these tools live in your sales reps' inboxes and they act as, I would say, in-inbox coaches for your sales reps. So that's how they can be more productive, right? Okay, let's move on. Now let's talk about JSON AI by Reply.io. This is a brand new feature, and there are two parts of these features, I would say. Number one is JSON AI itself. Of course, it's like B2B conversational AI that lives in Reply. So here's how it works. When you create a new sequence in Reply, there is a new tab, JSON AI. You can provide a context for this AI. It works just like with ChatGPT. You can provide context for your prompt. So in this case, you can specify your company's description, your pricing, your competitors, your use cases, your customers, your G2 score or something. And we will use this for your responses. So next time when you send in an email via Reply, all responses goes to the same inbox, to a consolidated inbox. And we will generate a draft for you. And for SDRs, instead of spending time on creating those responses, we have ready to use templates, and you can just click send and that's it, or you can regenerate response, so improve it, and then click send. So that's how it works. You can, it has like there are two ways to use it. You can use it as a semi-automated like assistant, or fully automated, chatbot. In this case, I use semi-automated bot. So when I open my inbox, I have just like a ready-to-use response, right? So that's how it works. Number two is magic sequence. I love this feature, basically. Really, here's how it works. When you go to sequences, you can create a new sequence from template, scratch, or from magic, and it works just like ChatGPT. You can specify a prompt. For example, I sell reply.io, write a cold email, and it will generate an email. We will try to like apply all best practices we know about writing cold emails. Here, not all of them are the best ones. For example, this one. Hi, now we have a solid email template. We can move on. Now the magic sequence will generate the whole sequence itself. A few additional email follow-ups based on your first email, for example, and then you can save it, and that's it. So that's how your SDRs basically can experiment with their sequences, A/B test sequences, A/B test personas, verticals, and it will take less time to generate all those things. And again, prompt, it's super important topic, I think, because what I've noticed, it really helps when it comes to outcomes, because the better you specify your prompt, the better response you get. You can say, implement best practices, use soft CTA, write short email, like, because when you say something like write a cold email, it will write a really long email. So you can specify, okay, write a short one, use soft CTA, use reason for outreach, add a value proposition based on industry or persona or their pain points, right? So that's how you can experiment with all these prompts. And now let's talk about no-code AI prospecting. This is my favorite part of AI, all this AI hype, because when we use generative AI, again, every time we need to write a new prompt, and it takes time again, right? It takes time to generate one email and so on. When it comes to no-code AI prospecting, we can use AI and ChatGPT at scale and be like personalized at scale. So here are a few use cases I rely on myself. For example, a basic one, company name cleaning. We can also use it for company research, for account research. Like we can ask about descriptions, integrations. That's what I mentioned, because sometimes it takes time to figure out whether or not they have an API page or an integration with a specific tool or something. And we can use it for cold email personalization at scale. So I have prepared a few use cases based on my notes. So for example, for this mini demo, I will use rose.com. It's a no-code tool, basically, with a spreadsheet-like interface. For example, so here's how to use it. I can connect my OpenAI account as an integration here, and then I can use it as a function now, not just like prompt in my chat, but as a function. So for example, a company name cleaning. I have a list of companies. They all have Inc., LC, so we can't use it in our cold outreach, right? Because that's how prospect know that this is not something personalized or handwritten, correct? So we can apply a function or action if you prefer. We can say, okay, clean up company name, remove everything redundant, additional description, trademarks, and I specify a company, right? And it takes some time, and it will generate an outcome. And now I will have a ready-to-use clean company name that I can copy and paste to my spreadsheet or to my list. I think there is a high demand in ChatGPT right now, OpenAI right now. Typically, it happens during these hours. Yeah, it's high demand right now. Okay, and now we have a clean company name. We can be more specific here, and that's how. So basically, now AI helps each SDR team to be personalized in its unique way, right? For example, I have a list of companies, and now I can say, hey, what company does in 10 words max? And it helps me figure out a description of this company, what they do, what's their business model, etc. For example, I have a list of companies. Now I can specify and ask ChatGPT, OpenAI, does this company integrate with Salesforce? And they can pull some information and say, yes, HubSpot integrates with Salesforce, and they can even specify what this integration does. And then I can say, okay, say yes or no. Now I have a clean list of accounts. They have an integration with the tool I'm interested in. So that's how we can use it for technographic-based cold outreach. And the most interesting use case, again, of course, is cold emails, personalization. We can use it to write personalized lines, icebreakers, PS lines, and so on. For example, I have a list of accounts. I can say something. I can ask OpenAI, okay, what's Drift.com mission? Based on Drift's probably company's page, I have their mission. And now I can write another prompt and say, okay, I shall reply you, write a cold email, 100 words max to a piece of sales at Drift and hook their mission as a relevancy. Now I have a personalized cold email based on their mission. And now it's replies, value proposition is hooked to this mission. So it's an interesting way to personalize cold emails. The same with other companies here. There is their mission, a personalized email based on mission. We can write cold emails based on hooks, based on someone's social media profile, for example. And here's a prompt. I shall reply, write a cold email, 100 words max, to this person, and use personalization as a relevancy. And it will try to hook this personalization. And yes, and now that's how we can generate similar emails at scale in one application. In my case, Roast. So there is no need to go to chat, copy and paste some similar things like company name, domain, the prospect name, etc. Now we can just have a few columns, and now another column can be an AI function or action. When it comes to tools, I can recommend you Rose, Clay, Captain Data, Data Bar, Airtable. So they all provide pretty much the same experience, a spreadsheet-like experience. So you can upload a list of prospects via CSV file, add another column for an OpenAI or AI, I don't know, other AI function. And now you can write that function and run hundreds of similar highly personalized actions. If you prefer spreadsheets, there are a bunch of Google spreadsheet add-ons like Sheet AI, Cargo. You can use even Zapier, Step, Prompt Loop, Numerous AI. They all work as add-ons inside Google Spreadsheets. If you want to learn more about no-code AI prospecting, feel free to watch these two webinars we had at Reply. So we are covering way more ways to use AI for your SDRs. Again, let's stay in touch. I will share the link in the chat, of course. And as always, thank you for your time and have a great day.
A couple more minutes. I think we have a couple minutes before this session expires. So this has been great. Thank you very much. And I've been actually, I was sending a message to one of my team members to then watch this recording, which, by the way, Aya in the comments, yes, we are recording this. We are going to be sending this. But I was just curious to hear your thoughts on, we've been talking about mostly email and personalization and kind of putting it on autopilot as much as possible. But what are your thoughts on letting AI-driven algorithms take care of other communication channels other than email, other than text-based? And this was a question from, let me see, Tony in the beginning of this session. He was asking, are AI algorithms going to be doing phone calls for us? And how soon would that, is that going to happen, in 3 years, 4 years? What are your thoughts on this, and how ethical it is, maybe?
Okay, great question. I haven't been mentioning other channels, but of course you can write the same prompt to generate LinkedIn connection requests, for example, messages or SMS, or even generate cold calling scripts. We at Reply are email-heavy SDR teams, and we're heavily rely on emails and LinkedIn connections. So that's why I was sharing my experience. But again, I'm not sure that it is legal to use AI for cold calling, for robotic cold calling.
Got it. But people have been asking, as you know, this is still a pretty popular question even here at Reply. All right, Vlad, thanks for your session. Super helpful. And again, even me personally and my team are going to be reviewing those spreadsheet-based workflows. Super interesting. Thanks for taking the time for this. We're going to move on with our next speaker.